Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the second session of day 4 of week 3 of ALYFE Connects, the very first virtual-only event brought to you exclusively by ALYFE Group. This afternoon, we are delighted to welcome Mr. Jonathan Wong, founder of Pushmore Gym and head coach there too, strength and conditioning coach and national masters weightlifting athlete, with a stack of qualifications in coaching as heavy as the weights he is lifting. Jonathan is joining us this afternoon to talk about the athlete's mindset, coaching and the approach to it during this new normal we find ourselves in, and also how professional athletes and even amateur ones and even people who aren't even athletes can keep themselves in peak mental and physical condition year-round, on and off season. So we can't wait to hear what he has to say. Please help me welcome Mr. Jonathan Wong. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us. So it's a pleasure to have you, and especially a coach as qualified as you are. I know you have a lot of very, very interesting stories to share with us, and both on the physical and mental side of the exercise coin, if you will. So thank you for giving up your time to come and share with us your insights this afternoon.
Right. So yeah, very, very, very much glad to be able to be part of this and to really share in terms of mindset. It's been challenging times for everybody, business wise, physically, professionally, and I think, we got to give a shout out to, all of us having to stay in a small space with other people or on our own. Both has its own challenges. So, we've done well so far, so we got to hang in there.
I agree. Yeah, I think shout out to everybody. We always give a shout out actually to the frontliners, but I think we should give ourselves a pat on the back too. It's been several weeks now that we've been adjusting to this new climate, as it were, and I think by and large, people have done pretty well. And what I've found in my experience on the show so far, I mean, we've interviewed a lot of people from a lot of different industries, but overwhelmingly, we've had positive response to it. When we ask people, how have you been? How are you doing? Overwhelmingly, the response is positive. People have found the time to reimagine some personal priority or reprioritize some personal issues, perhaps, or work on projects that they've always just been pushing back. A lot of people seem to be getting fitter during lockdown, like they're doing more workouts at home than they ever were before.
For sure.
It's good to see people staying physically engaged too. So Tell me a little bit, Jonathan, about what you've been doing during this lockdown. I noticed on your Instagram you've been, which by the way, if you're not following, you should check out down below that I am JWJW. Which, I mean, the last series of content you've put out has been phenomenal in the variety of home workouts that you've been providing for the audience.
Sure.
Like every day is a different kind of different split between core or stretching or chest or whatever have you. So tell us a little bit about that, because I mean, it looks like you've been really, really getting into it.
Well, so, one effect of us going into this movement control order is that I now have more time on my hands because, my day, before the MCO is a mix between, number one, training clients and athletes who are coming through our doors in Pushmore, running the gym, and also doing my own training. So, and then in addition to that, I'm not single. I have family. I've got 2 teenage boys. So, that means spending time with them as well. So it's pretty full day. And now that because of the MCO, I have this extra time in my hands, and, it's been a good opportunity to sort of delve into things that have been put on shelf so far. Now, in terms of the training that I had, the core idea for it was, number one is, can we do something that is progressive, as sustainable, and can be done with minimal equipment? So like all the workouts that we've been posting out since day one of the MCO, basically don't need any equipment other than maybe a mat or a chair or something that you have at home, a broomstick. These are things that we could just find in our house, right?
Yeah,
and the idea was to have it progressive and sustainable, so that anybody could do it. If you follow it from day one, and now it's already day 51, you would have come a very, very long way and made a lot of progress in terms of your strength, your flexibility, your cardiovascular fitness, and your overall well-being. So that was the goal, and that was the sort of motivation and drive behind doing that, because it's challenging times. So how can we just help each other out?
And well, yeah, and we really appreciate that, because you're giving away a lot of value there, completely free of charge, if you like. And challenging times made more and less challenging at the same time, in the sense of like more physically challenging, because the workouts that you're putting on there are much tougher than they look. You know, like anybody, like you said, anybody who's followed those through the 50 or so days of MCO so far is going to be coming out in much better condition and shape than they were when they went in. So, but obviously it's great to give them like a sense of mental escapism and a sense of achievement every day too. So that's great. So, but what about for your more sort of high performance clients, Jonathan? What about the guys who are maybe weightlifting at a competitive level, or powerlifting at a competitive level, or competing, say the performance athletes that you might work with as clients? What are you doing with them as a gym owner to maintain a sense of maybe contact, or a sense of routine or progression or programming during this time?
Well, so if you think of it realistically, right, we look at it from that point of view, let's say a competitive athlete, and I myself, I compete, at international and regional competitions at least 3-4 times a year. So the reality of it right now, there's no rush, because there's no competitions that's going to run for the rest of the year. So that's one point. So we shift our focus instead. So instead of thinking, oh man, I'm getting out of shape, I'm not competition ready, but so is the rest of the world. So there's no worry there. So we shift the mindset and say, okay, this is good time to focus on things that you may not have been working on because of the competition schedule. So like let's say for me, generally my training revolves around, or because I compete in the sport of weightlifting, it means I'm lifting weights, and that's like 90% of my training throughout the week. Right. So now, because like I'm at home, so I have less access to the facility. I have basically no access to the facilities that I normally use. So that means it's a good time to focus on other aspects. So that means we talk about body weight training, for example. So how to strengthen your ligaments, your joints, your muscles, and improve your flexibility, your mobility, and your body awareness. So it's a good opportunity to explore and develop those areas instead. So if your goal is to get better as an athlete, you always try to identify, okay, what's the best thing I can work on now based on the circumstances. So for most of us, we don't have the luxury of having a fully outfitted home gym. Some of my athletes are fortunate enough to be able to do that. So and we work the programming around it. But for majority of us, we have maybe a dumbbell, or maybe a kettlebell, or maybe some resistant bands, but nothing as say extensive as say a full out squat rack and barbell with weights and all that kind of stuff. So the idea is that with the guys and girls that I work with, say, okay, this is an opportunity for you to explore areas that you normally are not comfortable with. So if you don't have the, say for example, the best shoulder mobility, this is a good time to work on it. So you got to do more stretching, you got to strengthen it. So it's all about prioritizing based on the situation. Because right now we don't need to peak for competition, because I think if anything, competitions are only going to start kicking off next year, 2021. The entire competition schedule for this year is basically a write-off already. So like like for me, I compete in masters weightlifting. So all the masters, Commonwealth championships, world championships, they've all been delayed and pushed to next year. So so in that sense, there's no so to speak a rush to get into competition shape. So this is a good time to take care of yourself. And I think I also speak to some of my guys and girls that this is an opportunity for you to give yourself a break as well, because most athletes who I work with competitively, and even myself, it's hard to say to take a rest. It's resting is actually feels especially if you're in that sort of competitive state. Resting feels like I'm not doing anything, I'm standing still. But if you look at it the other way, if you're training very hard, the only way you're going to improve is you give yourself enough time to rest and recover. Right? And balance together, of course, with training. And now it's more than anything else is finding ways to train yourself, not just the physical aspect, but how do you train your mind as well. So for the members of the push more. So every day from Monday to Friday, I run a half an hour session with them at 6 p.m. So this is internally within for all the gym members. And we go through things like gymnastic work, body weight work, and we talk about lifting, but on perfecting body awareness and technique by just using a PVC pipe or a broomstick, for example. So, if lifting weights is the hardest when it's very, very light or it's very, very heavy. When there's a little bit of weight, why it's easier? Because there's feedback, right? So it's like, doing shadow boxing. Shadow boxing is actually really hard because there's no feedback. You have to be very aware of your footwork and how your hands are moving. It's the same for weightlifting as well. If you're using a PC pipe, there's no weight to speak of. So you need to be really aware of what you're doing. Where's my arm? Right, correct.
You're building the mind-muscle connection, basically. So this is
That's right. That's right.
It's very interesting. And how have you found, because especially the guys that you coach, again, like they are these are finely tuned athletic machines, lifting incredible, putting up incredible stats and weights and all the rest of it. But we know that the body, in biomechanical terms, when you're lifting the same weight over and over again, like the same clean jerk, snatch action, whatever it might be, the body's going to find the body will find the easiest way up. The body will eventually find the easiest way to do it, the most efficient way to do it. But so the point I'm getting at is that you can take somebody who can maybe bench press a huge amount because they have just gotten used to moving it along one plane of movement in one direction, and their body has biomechanically engineered the most efficient path to doing so. But you take that same guy and you tell him to do like 4 sets of 15 elevated diamond push-ups or something, pure body weight, he'll collapse after the second set because his body doesn't know how to move in that direction. So when you're going back to basics with your clients, with your gym members, like how have you found the response? Are they kind of like sort of going, oh, I can do that easily, and then turns out no, they can't. Like how have you found these programs and shifting your athletes programs accordingly with this? Do you know what I mean?
Well, I think to me, I think for this is me personally. I think when I find something that I'm not good at, it's kind of interesting because it means I can grow in that direction. And that's part of the athlete mindset as well. If you find something you're related to your sport and you're not very good at it, this just means that, hey, this is an opportunity for growth. Because if you look at it from let's say specifically say for weightlifting, you don't get good at doing a snatch by just snatching more and more weight, by just adding more weight to the bar. There's a lot of stuff that you need to do to improve the snatch. So for example, you need to have more stable shoulders. That means you need to do handstand push-ups. You need to do more squats to strengthen your legs. You need to do, like, for example, you need to do a lot of core work to strengthen the stability. So it's not just about adding more weight to the bar and doing a snatch, because if you do that, you're going to have a very, very short, limited career in weightlifting. Right? And for any sport for that matter.
Possibly. I think snatch is probably one of the most complete exercises out there. So I think I chose a poor example, but I think, this, like it's a good opportunity. People, like body weight can be brutal, it turns out. And anybody who's been following your Instagram course over the last few weeks will attest to that, I'm sure. But you mentioned something just then, which I'd love to come on to, because I know this is a very big part of your performance coaching, and also it applies to a lot of areas of life across all walks of life, not just in the gym or in competition. And that is the athlete's mindset, and that is how to approach things, not just now, although obviously now the situation has required us to approach with a certain mindset too, but also generally. I know that mental coaching can be just as important as physical coaching when it comes to your line of work. So tell us a little bit about what an athlete's mindset is to you, first of all, in your experience. What is it that you have identified so far as being part of what you would consider the ideal athlete's mindset, like what you think the core components of that mindset are, and then also how you try and instill that within your clients who are maybe lacking one or two of those aspects or components.
Well, I think right now, because I think as time goes by and as I'm exposed to more things and more experiences, the idea continues to grow. But if I were to sum it up in one line, I would say the athlete mindset is being focused and purposeful, right? And that sort of sums up the entire sort of approach to anything you do in life. It's to be focused and to move with purpose, everything you do. So, and that sort of, I feel, covers everything else, your determination, your discipline, your planning. Because, if you do things, you have focus. Number one is you have, okay, I'm aiming to do something, my goal, whatever that may be for you, whether it's fitness wise or business wise or in terms of life or even relationship. You need to have a focus point, right? Something that you're aiming towards, right? And this is whatever is important to you and I at that point in time. What's important to you may not be a priority for me, and that's fine, and that's okay. And it's number one, but you do need to have a point of focus, and that focus gives you purpose to take action.
So you just mentioned, so the focus point itself, you just mentioned though it was something you might be moving towards. But is the focus more like part of the longer term ambition or end goal or objective or what have you? Or is the focus on the immediate situation as it's presented to you? Is the focus on what you can do and what you can and cannot change and so on in the immediate present? Or can it be both of those things? Can the focus be something that you're aiming for and focused on in the distance? Or is it, right, I am doing what I'm doing now, I am focused on this workout, on this plan or so on? Or is it both?
So I think we need to look at it in sort of the macro, the big view, and the micro, the smaller view. It has to be both, because the immediate focus takes you to the next step of the large focus, right?
True.
So
Yeah.
what I do today will influence where I am 1 year from now. So, and what I do in a year will influence where I'm going to be in 2 years, 3 years. So, and if taking back that in terms of training, in terms of my approach in coaching as well, I always talk to the guys and girls that I work with is that, we are not in this for the next few days or few workouts or few weeks. We are in this for the long. I'm hoping that you'll be able to do this for the next 10 to 15 years or even longer for the rest of your foreseeable, for the rest of to have quality throughout the rest of your life. So we look at it from the long view, because as much as day to day is important, but I think it's as a person, I think having a much larger goal would actually drive you to be more productive and to actually understand things around you better. Because I can't remember the author, but there's this line where don't sweat the small stuff because it's all small stuff.
Yeah.
So
yes.
So that's why, like, if you have a sort of like a larger sort of point of focus, and it doesn't have to be immediate. I think a lot of people, myself for the longest time, like, I don't really have some major large goal in my life. I just want to put, like, when I was starting out in fitness industry, I just want to be able to pay for my petrol, get a few good meals, that kind of stuff, right? And as I started to meet more people, gain more experiences, those life goals started to develop and change. So personally for me, like, one of the large goals I have is to actually develop a system to develop high level coaches. How can we get somebody who is very, very new to the industry to a high level of coaching in the shortest amount of time possible while not cutting back on quality, right? So that's only been developed. If you ask me this, say 15 years ago, I wouldn't be able to tell you this, right? And this is just over time. And I think it's also in thinking that, being focused and purposeful, it's all right for the focus to develop over time, but it's not all right to change your focus every other day. That's a problem, right?
You need
so
to
that's correct.
Yeah.
So that's like what you mentioned. So the short term, the long term, and what we do every day influences where we're going to go, and that's where the purpose comes in. So when you have the large goal in mind, that helps you to dictate what you do during the day. Because I know I have this larger goal, so today I need to do this and this. Those have become my priorities, and then when you have priorities, that's when the discipline comes in. Because I need to get this done today, you're going to get it done, and then everything else happens. So that's part of the whole overarching umbrella of the athlete mindset.
Very, very interesting. And you make a very good point. Don't sweat the small stuff. I apologize. Don't sweat the small stuff, because ultimately it's all small stuff. But you put enough small stuff together over time and with the same purpose, it becomes the bigger picture. Interesting. And so how do you find, like you mentioned just now, the macro level, but even if you look at down to the micro level, day by day, how do you find, I mean, this varies from person to person, of course, but this is why I'm asking, but how do you find, whether it's yourself, because you're a very high level like competitor yourself, or your clients, what like tools or strategies or approaches do they take on like a daily basis to make sure that they are staying on that path as much as possible, as focused as they can be? And I'm talking like almost practical advice here. Like, for example, I don't know, would you advocate spending 6 hours on Sunday doing meal prep so that that's taken care of for the rest of the week, and you can just focus on what else you need to do? Like, I'm talking things like this, like what strategies or what approaches do you find really helps maintain that level of integrity in your focus?
Right. So I think like like you mentioned, everybody has different situations. Working with, some people are staying alone, some people are with families, some people have a helper at home, some people don't. So these are also variables. But you've talked about strategies, and I feel this sort of strategies will work in any situation. Is number one, we come back to sort of the focus and of what you're trying to achieve. So number one is, I think in any situation, is if you're talking about yourself, you need to take care of you first. I need to take care of me before I can take care of somebody else, right? If I'm not healthy, I can't help others or be functional around the people around me. Because if I'm having lack of sleep, I'm cranky, I'm gonna be moody the whole day, and that's gonna affect everybody around me. And especially so now that we're spending so much time with our families and people around us in close quarters. I think it's very important that we take care of ourselves. So it's not wrong to prioritize yourself. It's not being selfish, it's just self-care. Because if you can't be responsible for your own well-being, you can't take care of somebody else. Especially, you have kids, family, older adults in the house. And so that's the first priority. You got to take care of yourself. It's not saying that it's all about me, but take care of yourself and make sure that you're getting enough rest, you're eating regularly, you're having enough time for yourself. And I feel that's important. And it is of course challenging, but if that becomes a focus, that okay, every day I'm just gonna have a little bit of time for myself, I'm gonna read a little bit, I'm gonna just take it easy and watch some movies, or I'm gonna just chill out, take a nap, 20 minutes. Or for a lot of us, let's say in the sort of, if you're physically active, that time that you work out, that's your me time, and that's important, right?
Yeah.
And I think everybody should start with that. Just plan during the week. Make it a point that okay, this few times a week, or this time during the day, I'm gonna be for myself. I think that's important.
Self-care mindset is crucial. And
so that I said that's the first one. Sorry, you were saying?
No. I was just echoing what you said. And actually, just a quick side note, and that's something else that I think a lot of people have discovered, during this lockdown period, with the extra time that they've had, say the time that they've not spent on the commute in the mornings, for example, they've just
precisely
maybe used this time for a bit more quiet reflection, and they've just realized that actually, we usually our lives are so forward moving and fast paced, which is good, respect the hustle and all the rest of it. But at the same time, sometimes we just need to slow down and be okay with not doing anything. I think a lot of what modern society seems to have taught us is that, like, if you're not, hustling every second, if you're not, busting your ass to work as hard as you can and all the rest of it, I mean, these are all good traits, and it's good to be ambitious and energetic about it too. Don't get me wrong. But also, like you said, if you don't start with yourself, how can you be expected to be of real value to anybody else if you don't have your own house in order? So I think that this period has taught us a lot about it being okay to take time to reflect, to recharge, to regenerate, to reconsider. I don't know, a few things. And I hope that this might continue after, things will not go back to normal, as we know them
Right.
for a while at least. But you know, I hope this sense of self-care, not being selfish, I hope that
Yes, correct.
prevails. I hope that prevails, you know. So yeah, anyway, that's a good point. I'm glad you mentioned it.
So that's really the first thing. The first place to start is like I mentioned, self-care. And then again, I always come back to the point of having the focus, because once you know what you're trying to aim for, you know, and this again, you know, you may not have a very big goal, but you know, maybe for example, like okay, this week, I want to try to exercise 3 times, for
Oh.
example, right? And you know, don't make some big goal like I'm gonna exercise 3 times, you're gonna do for 3 hours when you never exercise in your life. You know, it's not gonna happen. So small chunks. So anything that you do, always take it in small chunks, right? Step by step. Um, you know, jumping the deep end is not really a good idea, you know, unless you're prepared. So you know, and sometimes yes, you know, jump into the deep end, you know, that's the best way to get started, you know, just go all in. And I think go all in terms of commitment, but don't go all in terms of how difficult of
Yeah,
the
in
thing that you're
terms of
going to do.
maybe go all in
Correct.
mentally, not necessarily go all in.
Correct.
Right.
And
Let's,
it's the same as well. I mean, so for example, if you're learning a new skill, whether it's a physical or a mental kind of skill, you know, you can't like for example, if I'm learning to play an instrument, the piano, for example, you know, I'm not going to be able to play you know, Mozart the first day I start. You know, it's probably going to be I know I'll be pushing it if I'm doing Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, right? So
so be realistic.
so it's the same thing. We need to take everything in small bite-sized chunks and to let the body get used to it. And it's the same with anything we approach, whether it's you know, from for especially for me, it's you know, from physical exercise point of view, when we are approaching a unfamiliar movement or training regime or program, it's always very structured in small chunks. Now, I think a good example of that, if you look at all the programming that I've been doing for the past 51 days or so for the MCO, it's actually very progressive. If you look at day 1 versus day 51 now, it's very, very different. It's been very progressive. You know, if you look from day 1 to maybe the first 4 weeks, 3 to 4 weeks of training, you know, it's very, very progressive. You know, and I'm not like trying to make it like super hard every single time. I want to make it challenging for you at that point in time and to build gradually. So by the time, like for example, if right now if you never exercised before and you do day 50 or 51 right now, it's not a good idea. You're probably going to be really, really sore, and maybe the movements might be a bit too challenging and not sustainable. Whereas if you started at day 1 and then just follow it all the way through, every single day do a little bit, you'll be fine. You'll be actually in really good shape, you know, by the time you hit
Yeah,
day
yeah.
51.
So you've
So that's
yeah, so you've engineered a very deliberate element of progression, of course, and and success into that. What do you know? What I find interesting actually is like the mind does respond very, very well to any victory, however small it might be, and you just need to tune your mind into being okay with those small victories, because over time, again, they'll be the bigger ones. You know, like rather than just say, right, you know, I want to lift this by the end of the week, and it's like some unattainable, ridiculous, like 20 kg jump, whatever it might be, and then getting pissed off that you can't. Just change, just flip the perspective, change the mindset, reframe it, and think, okay, if I can put up 2 kilos by tomorrow or something, and then be happy with that, and then do it the next day, and you'll still get to the
yeah,
20.
correct.
I'm talking in very, very general, unspecific coaching terms here, but you know what I mean? Better to be happy with the increments you're making. And then all of a sudden, I've got the 20 kilos, rather than just setting yourself up there, almost doomed to fail and then getting pissed off about it, right?
Yeah, so you know, there's nothing wrong with the proverbial low hanging fruit, so to speak. You know,
Yeah,
but
yes.
so because so but you know, it's all about incremental. So especially so I think like you know, as I work with more and more athletes who are, you know, where they are sort of like in their mid 30s to early 40s, or even more senior than that, you know, it's important that we factor in, you know, progression, gradual progression over the long term is actually a lot more beneficial than hitting a PR, a huge PR in one session, right? So
Yeah.
something that I like to tell my guys and girls that I train with is that, you know, it's not about lifting more weight, it's about lifting the same weight better. You know, it's
Yeah.
about fine tuning your technique, understanding what you're doing. It's not just about, say, brute strength, you need finesse, you need control, you need understanding, right? So it's like, you watch all those, all of us being growing up in the Asian environment, right? We're exposed to all these martial art movies, right? You know, there's always that young guy that gets his butt kicked by the master, right? And the master is like some old dude, right?
Yeah, long
So
white
and
beard.
the old dude is not doing anything, like think for example Jackie Chan's Drunken Master, right? So
Uh-huh. Yeah, he's got
I
his
have
head
a lot of people are familiar with that. So the master is some drunk guy. He's like, he doesn't look like he knows anything, but he's just like, Jackie Chan's young. He's sprightly. He's trying to do his best to beat his master, but he can't. So what's the difference, right? The difference is, we want to achieve virtuosity. That means doing something very complex and difficult, but making it look easy.
real easy, yeah, which is
Yeah.
we
So
very difficult thing to do. Yeah, attaining mastery, not
correct. So so mastery over long term, I think that's important. So like one of the coaches, one of my weightlifting coach, Coach Wu, he was a former national lifter from China. So he likes to use this term when we're training. It's like, okay, if you're gonna do your lift, show me easy. So it's basically what it means that, even though it's 100 kilos on the bar, show me that you're doing it easily. I shouldn't see your effort. Like for example, if you watch, I think one of the great examples of this, if you watch gymnastics, you watch ballet, there's a huge
Yeah.
amount of strength, control, and finesse to make it look that smooth.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah, unbelievable stuff. Like some of the fittest athletes in the world are gymnasts and ballet dancers. Absolutely, and
Correct.
I think more like sometimes. I mean, I think the rings is maybe the one exercise where you can see
Yes.
how tough that is. But otherwise, you're absolutely right. They make it look effortless. They glide across the between the beams and across the floor and everything with just such like grace and a finesse, as you point out, which is a very, very key element to all of that, and poise and control. And that's when going back to your point on mastery, that is when you really know that that person has mastered that discipline. They are in control of their body. Compare that to the guy who's like putting outrageous strain on his shoulders just because he wants like the ego boost of a big PR that particular day, So I mean, we had someone in last week, one of the personal trainers, and they very much preach. I mean, as they all do and should, is leave the ego at the door. Be prepared to be prepared to like go low to lift and things like that. Drop weights to lift more and all the rest of it. So it's interesting how you can instill that and put that in different perspectives.
Well, so like going back to sort of mental strategies as well. So it's important, like small chunks. And like you mentioned earlier, celebrate and appreciate the small wins. A lot of what we do, it's always it's like winning the lottery. You're unlikely to win it. So so instead of hoping how to win the lottery, why don't you think about how you can do better in your current job or business?
Right. Yeah.
Right. So and take that incrementally, because if you put it in, say, a lifting perspective, if you are able to add 1 kilo to your snatch every week, at the end of the year, that's a lot of weight. That's a good like 48 kilos up, right? Or I say even 1 kilo a month is fantastic already. So that's a total of 12 kilos. If you if you're lifting say 60 kilos and you add 12 kilos, that's like a 20% increase. So it's significant. So stuff like that. So just keeping that in mind in small chunks, and of course, always be. I think another aspect that we need to understand is there's nothing that's absolutely right. There's no one way to do things right. So I think it's being open to growth. I think that's important as well in terms of, let's say, ethic mindset and strategy in life, is that there's always a better way to do things. It's just it may not be discovered yet, and I think that's really, really important, because from, let's say, like for myself, from a coaching and athletic point of view, that's important for me, because that means that there's always room for growth. Because I feel that the moment you lose the ability to grow, that's when you start stagnating, and that's when you plateau. That's when you hit that point. And it's the same, I think, in any other situation as well. How we've always done it doesn't mean that's the only way to do it. So, and I think in this current situation with with the economy and businesses, and you know we've got the new normal. You need to figure out a different way to do things,
Yeah.
because how you always done it is not going to work right now.
No, no, that's probably the worst thing actually, if anything. Like, we have to adapt, and I think again that's another point beyond just the focus and the purpose that you mentioned earlier. That's another thing. The growth mindset, or the ability to be open to a growth mindset, is something which translates very, very nicely across all walks of life. It doesn't have to be like, or you don't have to be like a professional or a competitive athlete in any category to be focused, to be disciplined, to have purpose, to be open for growth, and to always, and be curious too, which I guess comes in with the growth mindset. But be curious, and but also don't be afraid to celebrate the small stuff either. I think there's what I find interesting, for example, is one of the most popular books on business leadership right now is actually an insight into the New Zealand All Blacks rugby team. Have you come across that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I have not read it. I have not read it, but I've seen it. I've seen it on my feed. But I have not read it personally.
I have. I can't remember what it's called, but it's a brilliant, brilliant book. And it holds true. It holds true because a lot of the one of my favorite rules is quite simply no dickheads, which just means that there is no one bigger than the team. Even after any big match, like you'll see like the captain literally sweeping out the changing rooms after the team have gone through to the photographs and everything else. The captain will be there like sweeping the floor, and it proves that there is not one person bigger than the team. And that kind of mindset translates very well into a leadership context, for example. So that's why it's very interesting to ask you, and with the experience that you've had competing at that level, and what mindset has taken you there, I think can apply to any walk of life as well. So that's very, very interesting stuff. But back
sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to say quickly two things. To the audience tuning in at home, we've got a little bit left of the session, so no rush. But please do feel free to get your questions in down below. If you comment beneath the Facebook or the YouTube video, we can bring the comments up on screen. If you have any questions for Jonathan, please do drop them in the comments box, and we'll get around to answering those. And my question was going to be something about your personal background, but we'll come back to that because I know you were just about to make the point.
Go ahead. I think I was going to share something from my sort of personal experience, but let's go ahead with your question first.
Yeah, because like you said, when you first got into the game, I think you mentioned it was back in 2003 you first started getting into fitness, right? And then you said that at that time you would never have imagined you would end up creating high performance resources for coaches and so on and so forth. But that's part of the progression that you've made and the journey that you've taken. But to you, I mean, I want to dial back right to the very beginning. Like when you got into it, when you started your fitness journey, what was the initial appeal, or what was the initial kind of path you wanted to go down? What kind of athletics? Because I know, for example, like you were a qualified CrossFit coach. CrossFit, I don't think was around in 2003. I'm not sure, but you know what
yeah, correct.
What was it that appealed to you, like originally getting into it? What did you want to be?
Well, if you think about also, just to even take it back a little bit further, before I even got into fitness, like I wasn't the most athletic person in school. I would do sports for fun, but I wasn't like a top athlete or that kind of stuff. I would do sports for fun, but physically, like I was kind of like okay. I wouldn't be at the back, but I'm somewhere in the middle. I'm the guy in the middle, right? So I think it really took off when after I left high school, I picked up rock climbing, and that was sort of like my major sport that I did for very, very aggressively and consistently. I was climbing like in the gym or outdoors 6 to 7 times a week. And how I started training in fitness was because I was looking for a way to get better in my climbing. Because hang on, I keep climbing, but I'm not getting better. I'm hitting a plateau. So what else can I do differently? And that's when I started doing my research. Now, back then, we didn't have as much, even though we had, access to the internet, there wasn't as much resources. So that meant, I had to really do a bit of research. I found books that people wrote about training and started getting into that. And that's what got me started training in the gym, right? And that's where my interest started. Really it started as a means to an end. Like I wanted to get better at my rock climbing, so I started training in the gym to help, and that's where it started. And really, for me, professionally, I'm a qualified audio engineer, but not anymore. That was
Yeah.
many years ago.
Interesting.
But
Yeah.
professionally, I'm trained as an audio engineer. So
Ah,
I've worked in post production for a little while. Um, but so I was in between jobs, and I was deciding whether to pursue a career either overseas, either in Australia or the US. And because I had time on my hands, so because I was interested in gym, somebody said, hey, since you're not doing anything right now and you're interested in it, why don't you just take a part-time job as a fitness instructor? Okay, that's where I started. And here I am, 17 years later. So it's the fast forward it, but in
yeah.
between, I do honestly, when I started, I did it as something to pass the time. That's the
Mm.
honest. I didn't have any big goals. I didn't have any
Mm.
wow, in 10 years I wanted to be this. I really didn't have that. And that's why I said at the beginning, it's okay not to know what you want right now, but you got to keep looking. You got to keep searching.
So,
Right?
so even then, I suppose, even if you didn't have like the bigger goal of becoming, obviously what you are today. I mean, you could never have imagined it. I'm sure, owning your own gym and everything. I'm sure wasn't on your mind, but you still had the focus and the purpose. Just that focus and purpose being, I want to beat this plateau. I want
Yes.
to move rock climbing. So you still had that, and you still had that drive behind it. So again, that's another fantastic example because, like, you didn't go into this thinking, right, one day I will be founder of Pushmore. I'll own my own gym. I'll be a national masters athlete. Or this. You didn't go into all that. You started with you started with a much, if you don't mind my saying, smaller goal. Smaller goal,
Right.
just beating the plateau. But you went into it with purpose and passion and discipline and all the rest of it. So, and now here you are. So I think again that's a wonderful example to anybody watching at home or listening who is just maybe getting a bit. Like maybe you have a goal or like an end game, but maybe you're just overwhelmed by what that might look like and how to get there. But really just focus on like what you can do day by day, step by step to move towards that rather than try and beat that by next week or whatever.
Yeah, so it goes back also to you asked or mentioned earlier, do you focus just on the task at hand or do you have a larger goal? Because I think so it goes back to my experience as well. Like initially you might not have that larger goal, so you start with what's in front of you right now. So I think the important thing is to just take a step forward, and then as you take that step forward, you suddenly realize, hey, maybe I could go in that direction. That looks interesting, and it looks like something that I want to pursue. So I think it's important that we step forward and explore, and it comes back to the growth mentality as well. So what happened was that I got into the fitness industry to pass the time because I was interested in it. And then as I was going through it, because I didn't really have a big plan because I was unsure about my career at that point of time. I didn't have a long-term goal, and that was worrying for me. And that was causing a lot of stress as well. I don't know what I want to do. So when this opportunity came up, okay, it's probably better for me just start doing this first. I'm kind of interested in it. I'm not opposed to it. Let's start doing this first. And then what happened was that because of that shift, I started to get into it more, and I started to realize I really enjoy this line of work. Working with people, helping them to achieve their goals, and the interaction, the communication was quite key to it. So from being a fitness instructor, I moved on to personal training, group classes. I'm sure many of you are familiar with the Les Mills classes like body attack, body pump, RPM and body balance. So I did the whole gamut of that. Then in 2008, that's when I started Pushmore and got into CrossFit.
Wow.
Right. So
Pushmore. Sorry. So just quickly for the viewers at home who don't, who maybe aren't familiar with Pushmore. Pushmore, like fundamentally, what kind of gym is it? What kind of what kind of programs do you specialize in, or routines or what have you? What kind of gym can they expect at Pushmore?
Well, so Pushmore is what we call functional fitness and performance. So it means when you talk about functional, it means that something that you can use in any situation in life, right? So whether you're lifting a weight, picking up a flower pot, a heavy suitcase, or holding your child, That's functional. It means whatever you do in the gym can be applied to a real life situation. That's functional. The performance part would apply to people who are more in who want to compete, being competitive. So that means when I say competitive, it's not just competing against other people, it's also competing against yourself, right? I want to be a better version of me. I want to be better today than I was yesterday. I want to be better tomorrow than I was today, right? So be competitive yourself, or if you're a professional athlete as well. So that's the performance part. So we do work with a small group of professional athletes who that's their bread and butter. But for majority of the athletes that I work with, people with regular jobs, they have families, they've got commitments, and how do we put ourselves in the athletic mindset and train like that, taking into account all these kind of things that we have around? Because being competitive means, like I mentioned, not just competing with others, but competing with yourself. So that's part of it. So push more, it's all about being the best version of yourself.
Nice.
That's where the baseline is. And the thing is also understanding that this journey, it's not a short-term one. It's going to be a long journey. And if you commit the time to make a difference for yourself, my team and I are going to be there to guide you along the way, because it's a two-part thing. If you don't show up, we can't do anything about it, because it's
Yeah,
not
I agree.
my role or my coach's role or my team's role to change you. All right. If the only change can happen is when you have committed, okay, I'm going to take a step forward. And then where my team and myself and my team come in is that we're going to make sure you take a step in the right direction. Right? Is
And
you're
keep
stepping forward, so let's make sure that every step counts. You're not wasting energy. So we've already done the training, we experienced it, like some of from a coaching perspective as well, like newer coaches, like, hey, I've made that mistake before. You don't have to make it again to learn that lesson. I can tell you right now, that's not going to work because I've done it, right? So
yeah.
that's sort of like what happens with athletes and coaches as well. It's like the sharing of experience is that, hey, I've made this mistake before, and you can get to where I am, or even better than me by me telling you this and you learning it instead of you making the same mistake.
I've made
So
it.
so that's where it is.
I've made it for you. They're like, trust me on this.
Yes.
You don't want to do what I did. Yeah, that's fair enough. It's
So
really,
that's,
yeah.
sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just saying it's really I mean, I think this should be the role of any coach, any good coach, of course, but it's really amazing to hear how you prioritize the mental as much as the physical almost aspect to your coaching, because without one, there cannot be the other. As you said, like literally, if they don't show up physically and mentally, that you can't do anything with them. So it's about getting them to that stage and to instilling and to nurturing a really, really positive growth mindset with with all the dedication and discipline that comes with it. There is one question, one question to wrap up on, because we've got just under 10 minutes left, and I know there is one more topic.
Sure.
Which we wanted to cover, which is equally important to you, and it leads on nicely from what you just said about the long-term game. This is going to be like this isn't for the short-term win. This is for like the overall level of fitness that you can go on as long as you can, and that is that topic is like the all-round seasonal readiness, I suppose, of your clients, of your athletes and whatnot. So like, tell us what you mean by that in terms of sort of all round or on and off season.
Well, correct. So I think like I mentioned it, like fitness for all seasons. I think when I mentioned that, I'm thinking about we are talking about life, and life is uncertain. That's the only certainty that we have. Life is uncertain. So really, like you can do all the planning you want, but nobody knew that this 2020 was going to be such an interesting year. That's right.
Yeah,
So I think like fitness in all seasons, I think it ties back not just physically but also mentally as well. How we approach things as they come along, right? So means that number one is being resilient in terms of challenges. So that means when we train, we're not training for that one day or that workout alone. We are talking about months, years. What I do now, can I utilize this, and is it sustainable? Right? So I think that's when we talk about fitness for all seasons is sustainability, right? How do I keep what I'm doing right now sustainable, right? And understanding that if something is going to give you a short-term result, a massive short-term result, it's going to be a lot to pay for it as well. So we need to understand that sustainability is important. So when you talk about fitness for all seasons, is understanding that your training needs to be sustainable. It's something I can do for the next 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, 10 years, in fact. Can I keep doing this? Right? That's sustainability. And of course, the next thing is that understanding that when we're talking about fitness for all seasons, is knowing that it's okay for you to have bad days, right? It's okay to have days where you feel like I don't want to train. I feel like crap today. I feel terrible. It's okay. There's nothing wrong with you. It's fine. We all have bad training days, right? So that's very important to keep in mind that that's going to happen, because here's the good news is that the more bad days you have, you're going to have a really good day coming up soon. That's how it is. And the thing is also to understand that when you have bad days, it's not to. So I think this comes to the term self-regulation. When you're having bad days, don't force the training. Do what you can on the day. Okay, I do this movement, my shoulder feels kind of sore or painful. Don't do it. Just do something else that doesn't hurt your shoulder. And it's fine. It's okay, because I think the thing about programming as well, programs are guidelines. I wouldn't say they are fixed in stone. So that's something that I tell a lot of I tell my athletes as well, is that the program that we're working on is a guideline. If you don't manage to complete it, it's fine. Because if you don't feel great that day and you're forcing to do what you're supposed to do there, then it defeats the purpose, because you're hurting yourself rather than progressing yourself.
Yeah. I
Right?
mean, of course, that damage you're doing will literally stop you from having good days for a while, like because
Correct.
you might do yourself an injury or some damage or something. So it's really important to keep focused on the now and just being okay with the now, maybe not being so great, because tomorrow's now might be better. But if you,
Correct. So that's from the point of view. Number one is, of course, sustainability. Number two is self-regulation, and number three, being all right with bad days. It's okay. It's fine.
it's okay.
Right?
Yeah.
And then, of course, the next one is, when we come back to self-regulation as well, it's all right if today is feeling really great, really bad, for example, and whatever you do, it doesn't feel great. It's okay. Just go home. It's fine. You don't have to feel guilty about taking a day off. Right? Just make sure that tomorrow try again, because if you don't manage to do the training today, you can come back tomorrow and do it. That's fine, and you're feeling better. You're feeling well. I think proverbially most of us are lacking sleep. So if you're really tired and you're lacking sleep, it's not a good idea to train. So okay, rest, come back when you're feeling better. But if you do want to train, okay, understand that you have to drop down the intensities. I just want to move. I want to get moving. So that's the self-regulation and understanding when it's a good time to take a rest day. And I think the other aspect as well is, no matter how good the program is or how good your coach is or how aware you are, injuries happen. We can only talk about reducing the chances of injury, but there's nobody who can say you do a program with zero injuries. That's a lie. If somebody tells you that, it's straight up a lie. Because there's no way you can guarantee there'll be zero injuries. Because even if the program is 100% bulletproof, you might just trip over a plate and fall on your face. Trip on the weight plate, and you trip over something, fall on your face, and you're injured. And that happens, right? And and the funny thing is, over the past few years, any injury that I had has not actually been for my weightlifting training. I go hiking, I slip on a rock and I twist my ankle. So and that puts me out from my regular training. So understand that yes, injuries do happen, and the important thing is how do we deal with it mentally and physically? How do we manage it, right? So if you have an injury that's particularly serious, then yes, you have to take it seriously and make sure that you follow the doctor or surgeon's recommendations and make sure that you heal as well as possible. And once you've got past that part, then is when you're going to start working your coach. Okay, what can I do now with coming out of injury, right? There's always something that you can do. There's no point where you say, oh no, I'm injured, I'm out of the sport. No, that's it. I can't do any training. You might actually feel worse if you're not doing any training. So the thing is after the doctor gives a go, all right, then we look at what we can do right now. So it's again coming back to the athlete mindset. What can I do right now that's going to help my larger goal? So that's how we look at it.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
And
you know,
having
dealing
the
with injury. Correct.
it can be very frustrating, but having that mindset to think of the long-term pattern and how you might disrupt that long-term if you jeopardize the short-term by rushing back after rehab or whatever it might be. So again, bigger
Correct.
picture, focus on that. Okay, we're just about approaching the hour mark. No one's had any questions for us yet. I think maybe we've answered them all as we've gone along. But any last minute questions, anybody watching at home, get them in the comments below. I have one final one, Jonathan. It's more of a just a personal one to end on. And I'm just curious as to whether there's anybody in particular, any global athletes or or superstars or whichever across any sport who really inspire you personally, be it in the sense of achievement or the sense of kind of approach or whatever. Is there anybody that you really personally look up to and have done for a while? Anybody who inspires you in this game?
Well, that's a difficult question because there's many. I take inspirations from many sources. I don't think I can say there's one person that I look up to per se in terms of a worldwide person. But personally for me, I think what's really influenced me a lot in the past few years and really given me sort of direction in terms of how I want to achieve in my coaching philosophy as well. I would say it's my weightlifting coach, Coach Wu Chuan Fu. So I've worked with him since 2012, and a lot of what I developed right now, the way I train my athletes, the way I program my training, the way I approach training, has stemmed from the time that we've been working with him. The philosophy of the training, where it's not only about strength, it's about finesse, about control. Approaching training like an art as opposed to just training per se, because if you're approaching it as an art, then there's a lot more finesse to it. It's not only getting a piece of art completed, but how you do it, how you execute it. So that's a big sort of influence on how I've approached things over the years. And I continue to work with him, and this really helps me develop. So just plug for him. He runs a DAOLifting, 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 or you can see his Instagram, WUCHUANFU at Wu Chuan Fu.
Wu Chuan Fu was
WU, yeah, WUCHUANFU at Wu Chuan Fu. That's his Instagram.
All right.
So yes. So guys, you can see what he's doing. So very interesting in terms of philosophy. It's really influenced me in what I've done and my purpose. So because I'm moving forward right now, I think things have been very challenging business-wise for everybody. So for me as well, it's an opportunity to pivot the business and grow in a different way. And I think this is going to be the case for many coaches or trainers in the fitness industry, is that there's always a way to deliver the knowledge and share it. It's just that you got to find the right platform. And I think also find your niche, find what you're good at, find what you like, and do something great with it. Because I think like for what I do, because I'm very focused on doing coaching, weightlifting, and performance, and that may not appeal to everybody, and that's okay. My goal is to create a product and service that if you are looking for weightlifting, you're looking for performance, I've got the thing for you.
That's
and
it.
Correct. So and it's okay if it's not your cup of tea, because there's plenty of different flavors out there. So you find the flavor you like. And I'm really good at this flavor, and I'm not shy to say that this is probably the only flavor I'm going to do. And I'm not shy to say that's the only flavor I'm going to do, but I'm gonna be really good at it, and you're going to really enjoy it if you're looking for that. So and that's my advice for others in the fitness industry as well. Find your niche, because the fitness industry is really large, or in any business for that matter. Find your niche, be passionate about it, and make something special, right? You don't have to make it for, I'm pulling this off from another guru, Seth Godin, SETHGODIN.
The
Yes,
business
the
fellow,
marketing
yeah.
guru. This is marketing his book. So you don't need to make something for everyone. You just need to make something for someone. That's
Yeah.
I would say that's the best way to say it. I'm not making something that everybody may like, but I'm making something that if you're looking for weightlifting, you're looking for performance training, I'm sure you're really gonna love what I have to offer. So
Yeah,
that's what it is.
So guys, for more of that flavor, as Jonathan so nicely puts it, check out the Instagram and see what he's been doing. I think the most recent stuff, or in fact, all the recent stuff has been the at-home coaching, which is fantastic. But I think dig a little deeper and you'll see just how accomplished and experienced this gentleman here really is at the good stuff, at the weightlifting and all the rest of it. I think there's and your list of not just your qualifications, but your list of achievements is anything to go by, then I can assure you that they're in very, very good hands. So I'm afraid, Jonathan, that is all the time we have for today. That is the end of the session, unfortunately. But from all of us at ALYFE Group and the audience watching at home, thank you very much for joining us. It's been a really, really inspiring session. And I think certainly full of a lot of lessons that we can apply, not just in the athletic sense, but we can apply it generally to all walks of life as well. I think there's a lot there about growth mindset, about focus and discipline that we can all learn something from. Guys, we'll be sending out a survey in the comments below the Facebook video, by the way. So please, if you have time, get around to that, because it's always good for us to get some feedback, and there'll be some information there on Jonathan's gym as well. So for now, though, Jonathan, we will say goodbye. Thank you once again, and good luck. Good luck with your online. With your online resource building, with your programs that you'll be putting on. We hope that your gym can reopen again soon. In fact, we hope that all gyms can reopen again soon, because
for sure.
As much as we're getting into home workouts, I think some of us just need, a squat rack back in our lives.
Yep.
So all the very best of luck with that, mate. Thank you very much for joining us again.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
And take care. Thank you. All right, there we have it. The wonderful Jonathan Wong, head coach and founder at Pushmore, which is a specialist in performance athleticism. So check them out. In fact, and I really recommend checking out Jonathan's Instagram below, because like the past 50 days worth or so of workouts that he's put on there are incredible. And like the length and depth he has gone to, just giving us a range of body weight exercises to do at home. You've got to appreciate the energy, and it's going to give you something to do, and you're going to feel great while doing it. So that is all from session 2 of week 3 or day 4, I should say that the other way around, of ALYFE Connects. We are back at 8 p.m. with 2 of our favorite live music performers. We had them on the show last week, but tonight they are joining up for our first virtual duet. We are welcoming back Dasha and Puva for our live music night. So stay tuned for that at 8 p.m. We'll be back then. But for now, stay safe, stay well, take care, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.